Islam, 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 and welcome to Moore's Heritage and History School. Usually, I would begin by reading chapter 25 of the Divine Covenant from Circle 7, but I still have not been able to find my copy of the Circle 7.
Really?
I have not been able to find my copy. I stuck it somewhere, and I don't know where it is. Still.
You need another copy then.
I need another. Did you give me a copy last week?
No, there was a copy that I think was yours. Someone left it on the table, and we thought it was Jamal's, and he said, "No, that's not mine." And we thought we gave it.
Mine. That was somebody else's. But I haven't been able to find my copy for weeks, so I should know it by heart. I read it every week.
I'll tell you what. We normally That's just like I know the Morning Prayer by heart, and then when I went to do it, I thought I had it wrong, and I didn't. So it's a part of you. But see, we know that. Well, hey, let's do it. I got it in front of me. But see, you have some provisions in there from the
some
original.
Corrections. Yes, I did.
Do you remember what they are?
Yes, I do.
All right.
When I'm reading them. Wait.
Well, you'll know it when it comes up, right? All right, chapter 25. And what do we usually do? Ask people to agree with this. Now, although we are coming from, we're not in the class, we are doing this blog only and, coming to you from Atlantic Rising on this part.
Actually, it's northwest of Amexem because we're everywhere.
You're right. So if you want me to, I can start reading it, and then you can let me know where the changes are. That might be something to discuss and figure out why. All right. So chapter 25, a holy covenant of the Asiatic nation. Well, first let's look at the fact that covenant means agreement. Like some people think, oh, it's a coven. It's some witch's brew or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole point of it. It's some sort of coven. No, covenant means agreement. As in the Ark of the Covenant, which is whenever a woman is pregnant, her body creates an ark, and what is a perfect geometrical ark, and what is the covenant? What is the agreement? To bring in the souls. That's it. Ancestors return. And so the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation means the agreement of the entire nation. Of course, we got to get people to realize that they are the Asiatic nation, right?
Yeah.
So, and it actually has, 5 stanzas. That's it. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So it says first, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother have given you suck. 2, let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness.
And sister.
Huh?
Brother and sister.
Say that again?
With
my brothers and sisters. Right.
And sisters,
it's interesting. Right. See, because you got a copy, you got a hold of the original. Like we all know that a lot of the work under the Moorish Divine and National Movement, well, let's say under the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Holy Temple Science, which it was prior, got infiltrated. So you were fortunate enough, and some of us have also gotten some things to know what it originally was, as opposed to, some people say, well, how do we know it didn't change? Well, some of the mainstay stuff changed, but think about it. Why would it be only the brother and not the sister? That's a good thing to ask, right?
Yep.
So, let the bond, right, very good question. Let the bond, well, we know why, because there's a Christian pseudo, not Christian like Christ, like crystal clear, pure, like that, but a pseudo Christianity that came through that changed everything or attempted to make everything go towards the patriarchal mindset, leaving out the mother, which,
right.
That's why. So, again, Number 2, let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers and sisters, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's home. 3, and when you do separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. Okay, number 4, if thy brother is in adversity, assist him out. See, I remember that one. Assist him out. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. 5, so shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race and his care to his whole nation. Makes sense too. Right. And his care be continued to you all in your love to other. There it is.
Yes.
That's interesting. Right. Now it said nation, not race.
Yes.
Because people have actually believed that there are different races. Anyway, whether there isn't. There's only one race, and that's the human race. You know what I mean? So when you use that term in that way without qualifying, it would lend towards believing, well, I'm from the so-and-so race, and I'm from the so-and-so race. But it already said in the very beginning, I think it was number 2 or 3, that one mother's breath have given you suck. So, like, hello, what are you talking about? And so that's where you go to. There's only like one blood. That's the O-type blood, which is the 360 that has everything in it. You know, that's why it's a circle. That's why it's an O. And then there's derivations, degradations, and divisions of that make up the others. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So a lot of people go and have, I'm going to go do a blood test to see what type blood and what tribe.
Yes.
What about that? Interesting, isn't it?
Oh, yes. That's so, that's really, when we do stuff like that, it really shows our lack of knowledge of self, because there's only the human race, of which there's 2 families. You have the Moors, who are the Aboriginal indigenous people, and then you have the modern Europeans, who were created outside of nature. They're the hybrids. They have to be adopted into a family to be protected. Now, we are the mothers and fathers of civilization. We're master scientists. We were master scientists, and we're moving back into being master scientists. It never left us. It's in our DNA. We just need to, go within, and that information will come up out of us. But we're the master scientists, and we're saying we're going to go to modern Europeans whom we created to ask them to tell us about the DNA that they themselves profess to not completely understand, so that we can know what family out of the one family we belong to.
Can you say that again? What family out of the one family? Say that again.
What family out of the one family we belong to?
Right.
That shows our lack of knowledge, and it also shows that, look, whenever these modern Europeans, because see, they don't do anything except for profit. Every single thing they do is about profit. So if they're saying, we're going to do some DNA testing so we can help you find who you are, where your people come from. My people come from planet Earth. Right? So, but why would they do that? That's the question. Why would they do that? They knew so much about DNA. Why wouldn't they first fix themselves? I mean, come on. Well, because they don't. Really what they're doing is, see, when they kidnap people and they take them into these holding cells they call police departments, they unlawfully obtain your DNA, because your fingerprint is your DNA. If they're taking saliva, any kind of bodily, that's your DNA. That's your personal property. And if they take it without your permission by force, that they can be sued for. So now they got to get around that. How do they get around that? They get people to voluntarily give up this private and confidential information and pay to give it up. All right? It should be the other way around. You're giving up private and confidential information. If anything, you should be paid, but you're the ones paying. So they got people doing this voluntarily, and then add insult to injury, you're paying for the fact that you're giving up your private and confidential information. So because we're so not thinking, Prof said, if I can just get you to thinking, you'd free yourself. Because we so still don't think, these police are going to these agencies and collecting that private and confidential information. I'm sure they're also probably selling it to all sorts of hospitals and research and development teams all around, all across the nation, because you gave up your private and confidential information. You're and there's an article that I posted on the MHHS Eyes Wide Open Facebook page. It's gotten over 1,500 hits. Did I say that right? 1,500 hits, because a lot of people are now, I know that when people see that article and they say, well, now they're saying cops are going to court and getting subpoena DNA information that people are giving up voluntarily to these various different agencies, and so they're getting subpoenas to get it, because it's all about profit. It's all about how much income, what can I do with this? And, we as a family, we need to know that we're private and we need to stay private, and we are not commodities. Stop putting ourselves in positions where it is perceived as though we are commodities. And selling your DNA makes you appear to be a commodity.
Okay. I was hoping you was going to bring that up when you were talking about if they know so much about DNA, they would fix themselves, because that's one of the reasons why they do what they do and take the, they're like, even with immunizations, when your children are in school, they're studying the blood, that's what they're doing to try to come up with stuff to save themselves, come up with stuff to harm you. That's what they're doing when they collect that. So I was hoping, I was thinking you were going to go there now. Like you said, they can't always do it by force. They do it by trickery and deceit for certain. And they do it in a way where we agree to it without realizing what it is we are agreeing to, because we're not aware that the DNA is our property, And that same thing comes up when we start talking about the hybrid. And some people take offense to thinking that, like, when we make this broad statement that everyone is Moors, we're talking about the fact that if we went into a laboratory and gave our DNA and the other half of our DNA to the Yavaro chimpanzee, right, and established this being, which caused us to have menageries and zoos, because we never had that zoos before. This is very real. If we did that to create this hybrid, like, that's our property, that's us. They didn't just get peeled off the wall somewhere, which is the reason why we have a responsibility and an obligation to have to adopt them, because we did it. We did this, and it's our DNA, the DNA that is our property. Therefore, they are. But then the thing is reversed. They know that they were born into slavery at that point because of the way in which it came. You know what I mean? Then we know that, right? And so now the script is flipped. But the only thing that can end that is our knowledge of who is who and what's what. It may be ugly, but guess what? That's what it is. And if we want to be who we are and be free and, you know, exercise the liberties that really were meant for them, because there was nothing to infringe our liberties until they came along with their stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then we will have to understand these things and know what happened and what is still going on. Very important. You know?
Yeah.
And yeah. Mhm.
So are you going to continue with part 2 of the astrology lesson? Because, you know, everybody loves when you talk astrology, which you don't do very often.
No, I don't, because, well, you know, I love it. Many people out there listening love it. We all need it because it is the science of the universe, and it is from the angles in which we were manifest. You know, we were talking to Sister Jayana last night after we got cut off from
oh, yes. Yeah, we need to let everyone know that we didn't hang up the phone or anything. It was hung up on us. Our broadcast last night was cut short, not by us, but by those unseen forces out there. Apparently, discussions about identification cards is hot, and so we was getting ready to go in really deep. We had about an hour left, a little under an hour left to the broadcast last night, and we started to get in deep with this Real ID Act, and they cut the line.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that we didn't want to talk some more.
Well, the reason I brought her
absolutely did.
I brought her up because she brought up. I brought her up for that reason, and also because she had brought something up to me, to both of us when we were talking to her after the class that she was reading scripturally, and I wanted to comment on that. But before I do, getting back to that moment where we was getting ready to go in, and she read. She read that the Real ID Act. Oh, man, I got it on my phone. She texted to you, right? Did you see it? Because I did.
I didn't get a chance to see it yet.
Okay, well, hold on a moment. I'm just going to read that one line because I do have it. And it stated that, wait a minute, maybe she emailed it. She didn't text it. She emailed it, right. All right. Hold on, because just as she said that, and we wanted to reiterate on it, it was like, I'm out. Plus, you also have to consider, not that you have to go through, but the manner in which we were connected last night. It was easier for them to go ahead and cut off, whereas you do stuff to that kind of helps to keep that from happening. But also, everyone knows that Facebook is definitely monitored. You know, like you just said, they get information to try to use it for you know, like your DNA. They're going to these places where you've willingly given up your DNA so you can find out what blood you really come from when there's only one mother's breast is giving you suck, you know. But you go do that. Now all of your DNA that you've left at these labs, they're creating some so-called law, because it's not a law, where they can have policy enforcers, corporations come and gain that to do studies or whatever they're going to do with it. So, see, this is why you didn't know that your DNA was your property and it ought not be given up. Now, some people would say, not for those reasons, for certain, but same thing goes with really everything. You know, they create a scenario. You run after it like a carrot, like you're a horse that needs a carrot, and you're running after, galloping, going nowhere fast, right? And then you get all immersed in it, which is part of what nature is. You initiate, and that's how the seasons go. When we get to cosmology, that's how the seasons go, man. They initiate, you get immersed in it, which is the fixed, and then you flex out, which is the change out to the new season, or in this case, to the new thing. And that's what we do all the time without stability of self. And stability of self, or instability, is a chapter that should be also read in the Circle 7 Quran to help with that. But if you don't have the basic fundamental foundation, you lose. So here's what it says in the Real ID does not apply to, and it has a few things it doesn't apply to, but one it says here, accessing health or life-preserving services, including hospitals and health clinics. So what is that saying? That's saying that they can't deny you if you needed any assistance from a hospital, which is an emergency situation or whatever like that, you're bleeding, you need to be stitched up or whatever like that. They can't deny that because you have or don't even have an ID, or it has nothing to do with any of the specs they put in this quote-unquote Real ID. They're telling you the whole Real ID Act doesn't apply, okay? It doesn't apply to law enforcement or constitutionally, hold on, I'm reading from my phone, constitutionally protected activities. Oh, boy, constitutionally protected activities. Well, if you don't know what the Constitution protects and preserves, you're not going to recognize when you're being denied constitutionally protected activity because we're not acting in constitutionally that is designed to, in fact, and protect us. Right? And it says this includes a defendant's access. Hold on. Shucks, man. It keeps blanking out. This includes a defendant's access to court proceedings. All right, so wait a minute.
Oh, wow, that means that all those people saying, I can't get into the court because I don't have a driver's license, Real ID.
They're telling you.
It's not apply to that. It's not for that.
And the last one,
they violated their own policies.
It says, and it does not apply to any participation in law enforcement proceedings or investigations, which is the same as, well, actually it should be separated because it says it doesn't apply to law enforcement or constitutionally protected activities, which includes the defendant's access to court proceedings. First, you got to know whether you're even in a court, and then it reiterates it by saying participation in law enforcement proceedings or investigations. And so what that means, and it says entering federal facilities. So guess what? That doesn't include that either. So like you just said, I mean, even though, they won't let me into the courtroom because I don't have such ID. Well, no, it doesn't apply, which is probably why they don't want to effectuate the Real ID situation, or they want to create some other stuff. But it's also the reason why we need to make sure we effectuate our ID and who we are. That's what it's really saying.
Yes. And you know what? This is exactly what I was talking about on last night's broadcast, because we do a lot of things based on presumption. We do not ask for the actual document. I don't want, and like I said last night, the person at the Department of Motor Vehicle tells me, oh, it's on the internet. Do you know how vast the internet is? Where is it on the internet? And I know if I had said to them, see, this is how they get you into traps. If I had said to them, oh, we're on the internet, they would have given me the Department of Motor Vehicle website address where somebody has interpreted what the statute says, not the actual statute. Because let me tell you, I went and pulled the actual statute. And the actual statute began in 1887 under the Interstate Commerce Act. So if you really want to know how did we get to this motor vehicle process today, you got to go back to 1887 and read that. Then you got to read where they updated it in 1978. Then you got to read where they updated it in 1982. Then you got to read where they updated it in 1994, and then again in 1995. And then I'm sure there was a period between 1995, which is what I have. But you have to read all of that so that you can see, okay, what did this spring from? The whole motor vehicle process springs from the railroad. That's what they were talking about. Who knew that when they were talking about passenger cars, they're talking about train passenger cars. When they're talking about cars, they're talking about train card. Now, either somebody is very, very illiterate, or they are imposing a railroad policy fraudulently on the people, but something, or they just don't know. I mean, I think I said that already, but
well, my people first for knowledge is what you're actually saying.
So the point I was trying to make last night is we have got to get into the habit of saying, look, I need to see the latest documented, verifiable statute on what you're telling me is the law. Like buckle up. What is it? Click it or ticket? What is that? Oh, that's law? Can I see the writing on that? You know? Oh, you know, no, we base our lives on presumption. We go with what somebody has told us. You go to the DMV. Why do I need this? Because your legislature says you do. Oh, okay, where's the writing for that? I don't know. Where can I go to get it? You can go here or there, but neither one of these places is going to give it to you because they don't deal with the public. What? So basically, that I need to know the law, quote, law, but I can't read it so that I can know it. Stupid is.
Now listen, listen. I was going to do this anyway. You know, Sister Gianna is listening in. I may have to pull her in because I was going to. When we're done with this discussion, I wanted to. There's something she said last night, and I said yes, that's astrology. She probably knows and remembers what I'm talking about. I don't want to quote her wrong, but before we do that, she had said, and I was going to do this, J.R., now I know you're listening, because I saw that. I said, look what it says about the driver's license instrument itself. Hold on. All right, let me go back to it. It says, hold on. And then she said to read the public facts. Well, I got to get that. She emailed that to me. I mean, texted. But I'm going to go with this first that I was going to read. This was done a while back, right? Like 10 years ago, and they're supposed to be complying to the real IDs, the states, and some of them have not, and some of them have made some progression, but now it's being forced upon them. It says, if my driver's license unsecure, if a federal agency does not accept it, Now, the answer is no. All states and territories have made tremendous progress in strengthening the security of their driver's license since 9/11. Not being on the list of compliant jurisdictions. So they're telling you right now that the driver's license is not on the list, and they have not complied. It says not being on the list of compliant jurisdiction means that the Department of Homeland Security, which we all know is another corporation administering, has not received sufficient information to determine that the jurisdiction has met all the requirements of the Real ID Act. Wow. Now, is the Real ID a national identification card? Answer, no.
Wow.
It says no, girl, you got to read it. She Real ID is not a national identification card. Hello? It says states and territories, they will continue to issue a driver's license and identification card, and there is no federal database of driver information. Can you believe that? Each jurisdiction will issue its own unique license and maintain its own records. They're telling you right there, no, it's not a national identification card. Right?
Oh, my.
No. Yeah, you got to, girl, when you see this, we're going to have to do a whole nother class on it. Now, she told me to read public facts, so let me go back to
that
what she
sounds like the states under the bus.
Say that again?
I said, that sounds like the feds just threw the states under the bus.
Oh, okay, I'm already on it. Yeah, wait a minute, hold on. It's the same thing. Oh, like I did just read it. That what I read was under the public facts. Isn't that some heavies right there? How many times have we told people it's not an national ID? It's not an ID at all. It's a driver's license instrument for those who are doing commerce. That's it, and that's all. All right, but you raised up believing that, can I see some ID, please? And then you say, here. So you're saying you're what? What did you call the people? Commodities. You're admitting you're a commodity, and that's how you're identified.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So we got cut off before we got it going in, but we're going to save anything else because I know once you read all of this with your reasoning mind, and apparently Gianna already has, we should do another presentation on that one right there, a whole breakdown on that. You know, it's very interesting because that's what it's coming to, a real ID. Mm-hmm. And we know we have a real ID. We know that government is family. We know this as society begins with family, so does the authority to govern. So we already know, like I told you before, one person went to the airport, I believe it was. I don't have other particulars, but I got enough. And I don't know if they went to the airport or wherever they were, because I went to the airport and many others and had no problem, you know, with the card. But they were saying, they asked them, like, where did they get the card from? They said RBA Publications. No, from my national family is where I got it from. They asked you, is this a government card? Yes. Is it a state card? Yes. Because it said, if you know the definition of state, which is what Cujo was saying, Pravin Ali had already set up in us knowing that, is that a state is, a group of people occupying a certain territory and going by the rule of law. So that is state as in state of mind, as in state. Now, the difference between that and a corporate state or a United States of America, that's a whole different animal right there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Exactly. So they're occupying under occupation and under certain rules of engagement that they themselves have been violating as the true lawbreakers. You know? That's really what's really been going.
It is a sort of breaking of the law, but it's more lack of information, because who knew that all of these policies and procedures are absolute for corporate activity. It is. This is why I keep saying to people, you need to read the letter to the people of Great Britain from the modern Europeans who came here on the boat from over in Great Britain. Because if you that letter in 1774, what you're going to be reading is why the Constitution had to be written down. Because you had all companies and corporations dictating the activities of the modern Europeans. They couldn't do this, they couldn't do that, they couldn't go here, there, they couldn't marry, they damn near couldn't die. All of this was based on corporate policy and procedures. At that time, it was British Moors. Then, after the infiltration, it became English law. Today, they fraudulently call it American law. It is not American law unless it is in harmony with the American Constitution, 1791. The 7 articles.
I'm sorry, I just want to interject. When you're saying English law, we need to bring home the importance, and you can look up certain things and it'll say in English law, and immediately you know it has nothing to do with you. We have a lot of people out there dealing in English law. They also want English titles. You know, they want to be English titles, prime ministers and lords and things like that. Doesn't apply. It's not American law. So what you're saying is, in order to know what American law is, number one, you need to know what the American Constitution is, right? That's number one. And number two, read Institutes of American Law. I think it's called Institute of American Law. It's a book. It's more than a book. I know that they have it on the tablet, but I'm not sure whether you can get access to it through the internet or whatever. But
you can. Google book.
Say again.
You can get it on Google Book.
Okay, and coolies, like a lot of the definitions we have that deal, like, for instance, with what a constitution is, which we have on the site, the definition of a constitution, and it says that it can't be changed except for by those who established it. And a lot of people want to get confused about, oh, well, the Europeans established. No, they didn't. That's from divine law. That is the principles of right, and we authorize them after they got their independence. Okay, that we had to bring them into the constitutional fold of government of the American law, and therefore that the Constitution had to be established based on those divine principles. It's not new. That's why they call it old, but yet, it's what, not even 300 years old as far as the document itself, but the principles are ancient principles. And see, as ancient descendants of ancients, since we all go around talking about we're the ancient ones and all that, we ought to know those principles and therefore be able to recognize when they're being violated.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, anything else you want to add to that?
Nope, that's it. Really, just to recap some of what we discussed last night, that's really, and just, like I said, we have to, like, for example, we have to start asking for these laws. And we got to know the difference between law and policy. For example, you go into a lot of these banks, they'll say, oh, to have a driver's license, that's the bank policy. No, that's not your policy, honey. That was a judicial decision. Because now, and in order for commerce to flow, they have to be a member of a corporation. See, those driver's licenses, because they don't have a nationality on there, they are simply membership cards. Very similar to your YMCA or YWCA membership cards, the Bally's membership cards, your Gold Gym membership cards. They're membership cards because they don't have a nationality on it. So these banks are saying, we're not going to do business with you unless you are a member of XYZ, constitutional violation. But the people got to know that. You got to know the strategies. And if they're saying, well, no, that's the law, can I have that in writing? I need to know where to get. If you're saying that you're enforcing the law, it has to be written. It has to be written, and a lot of people don't know this. Law has to be registered. It has to be, and the people have to be able to access the law. Now, if the people don't know nothing about the law that everyone is moving on, that is not law. That's policy.
That's why you asked her. That's why you asked her, well, can I see that law? And they don't even know where it is.
No. And you'll find that many of the people that you're dealing with, they don't even know the law that they're calling the law, like click it or ticket. How could that be a law? Click it or ticket. How could that be law? Look, okay, so what happens if I don't click it?
You get a ticket.
You're going to get a ticket, right? Well, what is the ticket based on? The reason why what these police employees of the counties across the land, the reason what they're doing is absolutely unconstitutional. They say, well, you didn't stop at the stop sign, so we got to give you a ticket. You were speeding, so we got to give you a ticket. You ran a red light, so we got to give you a ticket. Okay, so somebody get injured? No, but there was a possibility that somebody could get injured, so we have to get a ticket. That's unconstitutional. You can't give me a ticket based on what might happen in the future?
Well, but see, now, that's craziness, right? Because that's what they've been doing to the Asiatics, to the Moors. It's like, well, they think they study what you do, and they think they analyze what you might do, and then they come up with statutes they call law to keep you from doing what they think you might do, and then they call that law. That's crazy.
Yep. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then this other, you threw trash on the ground, so I have to give you a ticket for littering. Really? Don't they have a street sweeper that comes by every night and sweeps this stuff up?
Mm-hmm. Well, right, but I got a different view of littering though. I don't like to see people just throw trash. I know you make a point.
I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, okay, there's other. Okay, first of all, as a Moor, we should all have a certain level of pride in maintaining our ancestral estate.
Yes.
We should all have pride in doing that. We don't. But
the reason why most do not is because they take out their misinformed anger on the so-called white man, and they think it's their stuff. They act like this ancestral estate is theirs. That's why.
Yep.
Not that it's a good reason, but
it's not a good reason. But we have to learn to be. The prophet said you're going to need each other more than ever before, and he's so right. He's so right. And, and just to give you an example, I don't even know how we get this warped and twisted mentality where we got to steal from our own people. All right? I don't understand that. But that's not what it should be. What should be is that if I need somebody to deliver oil, I should be able to call one of my Asiatic brothers. I do. If I need my conveyance repaired or any repairs done in my house, I need to be able to call one of my Asiatic Moorish brothers. If I need appliances, if I need my lawn manicured, if I need anything, I need to be able to call one of my Asiatic brothers. And what's really interesting is we're so divided. We don't look. We are so divided that we look at each other. I say it all the time. We look at each other. We look alike, and yet in our twisted minds, which, the prophet came to free us from the mental slavery. The freeing of the mental slavery should tell you that, wow, you look like me, I look like you, we're family. Let's finance moving within our family just like the modern Europeans do. Because, I was spending some time with my dad last week, and my dad said that the next door neighbor, who is, quote, supposedly Italian, oil delivery. I said, do they use the same oil delivery person that you do? Now, my dad uses a modern European. He says to me, no. He said, anything that they do, it has to be an Italian. I said, wow.
Yeah.
Get their oil from an Italian. Their lawn is cut by an Italian. If they're getting delivered, they're going to an Italian grocery store. If they're buying clothes, they're going to an Italian seamstress or tailor. If they need some shoes, they're going to an Italian cobbler. Because the Italians still, a lot of times they don't go into the supermarkets because it ain't the department stores because it ain't Italian owned. So they'll go to an Italian cobbler and they'll build a shoe for them. Those are the old school. And which is what my dad's next door neighbor is, old school. Everything they do, he said everything they do, they use Italian. So they keep the finance moving within their Italian family. And let me tell you, the person that cuts their grass, delivers their oil, they don't have the same last name. But they know.
Well, let's clear that up, too, because Bey and Ill is not a last name but a title. So remember, the prophet said with one family burned, one free national appellation, which is now the reason why we have. But the reason, see, here's the thing: the so-called tribal they said, what's my tribe name is really a family appellation indicating area, geographics, culture, etc., like that. And that's not a nation. That's the family appellation, which people call tribes. But what's missing from it is the titles, which is and the reason why those titles are there is because we're the only ones. It's our ancestral estate. So therefore, we have the title to the ancestral estate, which is in, you know how they say it's all in the quote-unquote name? Well, the Bey, the El, the Al, the Days, and the Alis, that is the title to the estate. And so we need to be clear with that, but we bear that one free appellation, which would be now basically, and because people are always asking, well, I want to use Al, Day, Ali. You know, no, those are reserved for the nation for the activities in regards to what they mean, what they are in relationship. It's the same as what they adopted from that when they tell you that you've reached a degree or received a degree in college or a master's degree or whatever like that. They're used the same concept but a little different. So the Al is the professed sciences. Professed in the sciences. That's why you have, you know, geometrical, mathematical. Al is on all of that. Chemical, you know, the chemists, etc., like that. So and then of course Ali is the master. I mean, you know, don't even go there. All of this is assigned by or achieved by your achievements under your nation. Well, if you don't realize that you come out primarily, basically, an El or a Bey, which is the foundation regarding these titles, which is the basic primary foundation for all of the family. You're a Bey or a El, a lawmaker, sisters. Every time you have the child, you know, you lay down the law. Usually most women definitely lay down the law in their home. Absolutely, because if they don't, we got a problem, right? So they're the lawmakers, and then you got the Beys, which are the law enforcers. And, you know, from that, they also use that's all in judicial astrology also, but they also have a bailiff and a bailick. I just had to send someone something about that. They must have studied and found out about bailick. So they thought maybe that they could use for their title on their appellation bailick. And they said, well, you know, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me, you know, so I wrote them a letter. The only reason I had to write them a letter because they didn't give me their email, so I had to put it in the letter. I had time to do that and explain to them. So when you get bailiwick, and I think Ms. has talked about that earlier on some shows, the only person who can have a bailiwick is a Moor because it's the authority to administer the law. So now that has been given to us. It's the same as a sheriff deputizing his deputies, but the sheriff is really the sharif. So that's getting handed down to the sharif, which they call sheriff now, which is not acting as a sharif, but acting as some other colorable activity, calling themselves a sheriff. It's really a sharif, you know. So bailiwick or bailick, that's where the source is the Bey. Be the Bey, be the ill and the Bey. You know, this is who we are by nature coming out in that respect where it's politically and lawfully administering these activities and nationwide. Then you graduate within your nation into these other things. And we need to reserve that for those parents, but it's our lack of knowledge, I think. Yeah.
We so need. See, Al is alchemy, and I think engineers also fall under that, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I said chemistry or alchemist. Yes. Engineering, the whole bit. Yeah, of course. And why? Because listen, everything is mathematics. So it's like coming out primarily and then building onto that.
Absolutely. Now, let me just say this, because a lot of people they don't get, engineer really, I don't know what engineer means today, because people have gone to school for some time to be an engineer, and yet they got to go to Japan to figure out how to preserve the bridges that are falling down over here, because the engineers don't know, which is really interesting. But I got to say this, trade. Man, if I knew then what I know now, I would have invested in a trade, because when I've been spending a lot of time with my dad, who is a tradesman. He started out a cabinet maker. I didn't know how serious a cabinet, when you say a cabinet maker, I'm thinking, okay, you make cabinets in the kitchen. That's what I'm thinking, but it's a lot more involved than that. But this is a trade. Yeah, exactly. So my dad would be like an owl. He's a master cabinet maker. He went, because my dad's thing was, you never, he did the plumbing, the electrician, the electrical work, the heating work. He did everything. He said, because you don't want to give anything outside of the family. So if you had somebody who either an electrician or was a, heating, ventilation, they did it. But if there was nobody in the family, you did it yourself, because you didn't send the finance, you didn't send the finance outside of the family. And I was like, wow, that's deep. But where are the tradesmen today?
Right. Well, see, actually, he would be just generally a Mason in terms of it meaning mother's son, because that is a builder. That is a natural builder, and with those tools, right? So, so that's really what it is, because we're all, the master architect and builder is the woman when she builds the child in her womb, but mother and son, or mother's son. So he's already a builder in that respect, and we look at all the things that we have actually built. But
I'm looking at, my younger brother, he went to a trade school to become an electrician. But even while he was I don't know if they still have a lot of Asiatic sons who are getting into trade, because they've been tricked into, get a desk job where you can dress up in a fancy suit and some fancy shoes, and you can sit behind a desk, take it easy. But the longevity of the trade, it's just, because if you have a son, then, or a daughter, because see, trade is not gender specific. If you have a child, you can pass that trade to that child, which is what my uncles, because all the males in our family is into some sort of carpentry trade. I'm calling it carpentry so I encompass everything. Everybody, all the guys, actually from my generation back. Now, the next generation after us, they don't know nothing about nothing. They don't even know how to put oil in the car. So, but if you have a child, then you can teach that trade to that child, which is what the modern Europeans are doing. This is what we used to do. This is why you didn't send your child to a school. They watched whatever somebody was doing, and if whatever they gravitated to, that's where they went, and then they would probably go to like a temple, a specific temple that specialized.
Yeah.
You there?
Because when you I'm here, but when you say temple, you're not necessarily talking about an MSD or Bay temple. You're talking about a temple of which there's thousands of them all over the land, and I think of Philadelphia a lot because all of those that are there are now, most of them churches, but they were actually temples where specific learning went. Because one time someone asked me, why are there so many of these quote-unquote now churches in Philadelphia, everywhere, and not just Philadelphia, but just using that as an example. And I said, because they were not originally churches. They were temples where you went in for gathering of learning and specific information, and you would send your child, once you knew their inclinations, you would send your child to the specific institution of learning that they were had an inclination or interest in. That's why you see so many of them, and that's why they've all been turned into churches today from the Catholic society. They took over them, and that's why you also will see on the stained glass of these called churches today, you will see Asiatics. Then they'll try to rub out the face or whatever like that, but if you really go and do a trip on looking at them, you will see that they were Asiatics, in those stained glasses windows. And that's also why there were copper tops on the roofs, because the copper induces energy, holds in heat, holds in cool, also induces energy, so that we got together and, like I'm going to be real primitive with the rain. Like they say, the natives would get together and dance for rain, and it would rain. Well, if we went into these buildings, whatever it was that we were invoking to occur would actually be assisted with the copper. That's why some people today are wearing copper. One of them is, I know you wear copper, I wear copper, and I have copper. And there's a lesson that you taught. You don't even have to really clean your copper, because it will indicate through your body, if it turns colors, it's telling you something's wrong with you, that there's something that's trying to get out of your body. So, of course, every morning if you have copper on, when you wake up, you're going to have a little bit of what you call the patina, the green. Once it hits and oxidizes with the air, it turns that green, which is called patina. So if you look at a copper roof today, it doesn't look copper, it looks green. And that's how you know that that's an old building. So with the copper, it will shine itself if you leave it on your body, as long as your body is not filled with too many toxins. And if your body does get filled with toxins, it'll indicate to you that it is by turning a color. I had one that when I had gotten sick, it got so dark and ugly and dark that I took it off and just let it sit for like months. And then somebody said, well, let's just test out what you're saying. I put it back on, and I got it on now, and it is bright. I mean, it gets so bright that I'll go into stores, and these, especially Europeans, they think I have on pink gold. Yeah. That being what it is, let me say. Oh, all right. I was wanted to get back. We really wanted to talk about these holy days that they call holidays, right?
Right.
Okay.
From an astrological, right?
From an astrological, universal, real science point of view. Oh, and did I forget law point of view? Because law is length, angle, and width. Therefore, the length, angle, and width of what? The energies of the universe, or the planetary bodies as they move and how they affect us here on the earth. And, one real easy one that everybody can see is the moon. Everyone knows that the moon, when it's full, it's rising the tides of the oceans, the rivers, the streams, whatever it is. The tide is rising, so it has that much magnetic pull to do so. And although you see the moon, it is the fastest moving in this solar system that we have, because it works on a 28-day cycle as opposed to the sun, which is a 30-day. And it moves very quickly through all 12 houses of the astrologics. It'll stay in a house for really what equates in cycle time to 2 and maybe a half days. You know what I mean? So you might see it as 3 days, depending on whether it moved in the middle of the night at 4 a.m. or something like that. That's why you have planetary calendars that will tell you exactly when the moon is moving, and it goes from one place to the next. So when in a sequence that never fails, because it's religious, it religiously binds itself back to its own course. And it'll go, if it's in Aries today, it's going to be in Taurus when the moon next. Then it's going to be in Gemini. Then it's going to be in Cancer. Then it's going to be in Leo. Then it's going to be in Virgo. Then it's going to be in Libra. Then it's going to be in Scorpio. Then it's going to be in Sag. And then it's going to be in Capricorn. Then it's going to go from Capricorn to Aquarius, Aquarius to Pisces, and that's the end back to Aries again. And it doesn't matter. That's how it's going to move around this band in this solar system. And really, it's not moving around those. It's the movement of the Earth, the Moon, the Sun, all of that together, because the solar system, the Sun is the center of the solar system, of the system we live in, which is why it's called the solar system. Now, that's the center, and that's why in Latin they call it Domingo. The word for the sun is Domingo. All the 7 days. Okay. Oh. All right. Diana just sent me some information I'm going to share. All of the 7 days of the week that we use all the time is based on its original tongue, if you will, or really not original, but yeah, is out of Latin, Moorish Latin, or what's called Moorish Latin. It's out of Moorish Latin that they speak it when we call it Spanish, but it's not Spanish, and it is based on and named after the 7 most influential planets. Now that's a fact. That's a fact. That cannot be denied. And so if you understood or knew that, then you would have better understanding of what's going on. You would know that Sunday is the first day of the week, even though they say Monday is. But Sunday is, and there's still calendars that indicate the same. Sunday is the first day. It makes sense to me with reasonable analysis that if this is all about the solar system, the center of the sun, this solar system is about the sun being the center, which it is, and I'm talking S-U-N sun, then the first day of the week would be Sunday, and in Moorish Latin it's Domingo, dominion of the solar system. That's the dominion. And so then you would have the moon is Monday, but it's not because it's the moon and Monday. It's not catch-all type of what you call ebonics. No, it's because the moon in Moorish Latin is Luna. That's how you say Monday. I'm sorry, in Moorish Latin, the way you say Monday is Luna, because that's lunar. And what is lunar but the moon? And then Tuesday is ruled by Mars, and it's Martes. And Wednesday is ruled by Mercury, and it's Miraculous. Now, I may not have the proper pronunciation on this, but those who do speak what they think they're calling Spanish or what they think is Spanish when it's really Moorish Latin, you might say Miraculous or something like that. I don't have that necessarily accent, because if I had it when I was born, it's gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's inherent. It's just like it's inherent that your child might read from right to left. I know mine did, and then many others did, because that's how we read. And then in the public school systems, they force them the other way. And then sometimes, if that doesn't get done early enough, then they'll start labeling the child because it didn't get done quick enough. For some people, they'll do that because they're still looking at things from right to left, while everybody else is looking at it from, they're looking at it from, right to left, while right to left, while everybody else is looking from left to right. And until they're forced to, by practice, do it the other way, they will be labeled. I think the labeling of that is dyslexia, I believe, or some form of dyslexia where the child is reading from right to left. Now, all of this is based on going against the nature. So we get to Thursday, and it's Jupiter, and it's Uevo, because J's are silent, all right? And then you get to Friday, and it's Friday is Viernes, Viernes, and or Viernes, and that would be from that's Venus. But there's also Freya is also another name for Venus, because there's a lot of names placed on things. You got to know what they are. And then Saturday is Saturn, named after Saturn, which is called Sabado in Moorish Latin, Sabado. And then back to the first day of the week, which is Sunday. Now, going back, there is an energy, there's the ebb and flow, the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, the in and the out, that is applied to the energies. It's either incoming energy or an outgoing energy. That's it and that's all. They must be that way in order to have a flow, so or activity. Like into a battery, you got to have the positive and the negative. Oh, that was the other terminology I wanted to use. Positive, negative, ebb and flow, yin and yang, masculine, feminine. They're all together as one, really as one. So each day has an energy. So now the only day that has two energies, let's say that the first day starts with an incoming energy of Sunday. That's incoming. And then it's an outgoing energy on Monday. And then the incoming and then outgoing. It just sequences itself. Now, on Saturday is the only day that has both, which is the last day. That's the 7th. That's actually the Sabbath and the 7th day, because Sunday is the first day of the week again. So on Saturday, you wake up in a negative or an incoming energy, and that's where you don't feel like getting up. You're trained also today. But see, they already knew that when they set up the work week how the energies worked. So on Saturday morning, you don't want to get up, you want to sleep in or whatever like that. And then by Saturday night, the energy literally changes. And that's the night you want to go out and party or go out and do something. This is already known because the energy changes to an outgoing energy on that particular day. It does both. So now, with us knowing this, and then, of course, knowing also, as we talk about this 7, that's why it's the circle 7. No one knows or thinks about what that is. But the circle 7 in that logo is nothing but an indication of the astrology. It's an astrology wheel with the 7 in the middle and the 4 breaks. Like if you drew a circle and put a cross through it and then just left a gap open where the cross meets the circle and then erased the cross, you would just have a gap as you do on the circle 7 and a 7 in the middle. It's giving you the signs, right, and symbols right there, because remember, man must learn by signs and symbols as well, and that's already been stated. So what I would like to see for all of those who are or consider themselves avid Prophet Noble Drew Ali Prophet Noble Drew Ali, or inspired by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and his work, and who oftentimes, like with anything else, do not really study what they are involved in. I want to just do a couple of things so that we can knock out the box as we go on about astrology, that the Prophet didn't bring astrology. Well, first of all, I just showed you that the circle 7 is the astrology wheel. That's number one, not to be debated. That's what the 7 is about. That is also why he says how many days are there in a week, and people would say 7. How many days are there in a month? And people would, the correct answer would be 7. People would say something else, 30 usually. How many days? But they might say 28, if they really knew what a month was, because a month is a lunar. It's based on the lunar, and the lunar is based on 7 days, 4 times. So back to your 7. But most people would say, oh, well, sometimes it's 30 days and sometimes it's 31 and all that. And then he would ask, well, how many days are there in a year? And people would say 365. And the answer is 7. Why? Because there's only 7 days. That's the 7 that I just named to you and gave you the names of those 7 days in the week, which are named after planetary bodies. Period. Now, those planetary bodies have also been given allegorical stories, names, and situations, and we're going to bring some of those out. But before we do, for those who say the prophet didn't bring astrology, well, I just wanted to say the Circle 7 is the astrology will. And secondly, if you read the first chapter of the Circle 7, Holy Quran, divinely prepared by the prophet, divinely prepared, to clear that up, because people just they're just negative all the time. They don't really receive anything. They're like, well, that has the Aquarian gospel. Well, yeah, because some of it is the Aquarian gospel, and the Aquarian gospel was not written by Levi. He found these ancient scripts. So this was divinely prepared to serve our needs, all of us as a nation of people, and all the problems that we have suffered from lack of knowledge and lack of knowing who we are and our culture and our religion and our nationality and all that, from lack of that. And I will say this, we didn't even have to really deal with nationality until we created the hybrid. And that's why he tells you to go back to the mindsets of the ancient foremothers and forefathers and figure this thing out. It's easy to do once you know and you have the tools. So now going into chapter 1 of the Circle 7 Holy Quran, it's called The Creation and Fall of Man. It says, and I have the small book, so give me a second here, because it says to let, okay, so I'm looking at the wrong page here. It says to that man, okay, here we go. He let it, okay, I'm going to just start at a certain part of this. And it says in here that the soul, okay, here we are. He says, he must, talking about man himself. All right, now I'm going to go back to here. It says, let every living thing stand still and hear. Man is the Lord of all the plane of everything manifest, of protoplasm, of mineral, of plant, of beast. And see, this drives up when you go to Genesis 1, not Genesis 2. When it says that, we were made the Lord dominion, given dominion over everything, the fishes, the seeds, the bazi, and all that. Okay, so this is in line with that. And over the plane of manifest, of protoplasm, of mineral, of plant, of beast. But he, listen closely, gave up his birthright. These were all your birthrights to be dominion, to have dominion over there, or Lord, or dominion. Now, dominion does not mean domination. But the reverse of everything, you have this mindset of the hybrid that has been using domination. See, dominion means spiritual ownership. Domination is a physical force thing. And we have dominion, not domination. That's why we can't really own the land or own or sell it. That's why it says, your birthright, it can't be bought, it can't be sold, and it cannot be transferred at all. So that's why it's inheritance, So we're here to have our experiences and leave everything to the next generations. Now, if we are the Lord of all the plane of manifest, protoplasm, minerals, of plant, of beast, but I'm going to use the word yet. You're Lord over all that, and then you do something foolish and give up your birthright. Why? Why did you give up the birthright? He says, just to gratify your lower self. So I'm going to stop right here for 1 second. To gratify your lower self, the symbology of us steeping into or steeping and getting involved in our lower self is really the extended cross that you see today. You know, like the true cross is the circle with the, what we're going to say, 2 lines crossing inside of it that do not extend down lower on the south side. And when I say the south side, I mean the lower side of man, which is everything below the midriff. Libra is the middle there. The balancing of the scales is the kidneys, where you have a kidney on each side. So that would symbolize the scales ruled by Libra. The kidneys are waters. Waters are where you came in. You came in through the waters of your mother's womb. Waters represent knowledge. So now when we start having activity that is only dealing with our lower self, the sexual organs down below, not saying not to have sex, did not say that, but when we're steeped in all of the lower self stuff. Now, I got to get the one-on-one out because it says what lower, what is the higher self and what is the lower self. And, when we really understand what the higher self, I got to get the one-on-one. When we understand what the higher self is and we understand what the lower self is, then we will clearly, in honesty, recognize who is operating in lower self when we see it, and we would recognize when we ourselves are operating in our lower self. So we gave up everything that we had dominion over just to gratify our lower self. So with that, do you have a one-on-one in front of you, Sister Annie, that while I'm doing this, you might want to go and, I don't know what question number it is on the top, but, to determine what the lower self is. This is real clear. We have to determine it. So we gave, but it also says that man will regain his lost estate. Now remember, we have dominion. This is our estate. Here's the Prophet Noble Drew Ali telling you that this is your estate. All right. We will regain our lost estate and heritage. And heritage. You can't have an estate without it being inherited, without her. So we will regain our lost estate and our heritage, but it has to be done in a conflict that simply cannot be told in words. And I had a revelation on cannot be told in words a long time ago, and I know everyone listening can share that. Because when you go through something, it's you going through it right then and there, your response, your reaction, your back and forth on how you handle this thing, boom, bang, whatever. Then it comes out, and it's great. It worked out. Now you have to go tell somebody about what just occurred with you. So it already occurred by your test, by your experience, that you had with it. There it was. It happened. Now I got to go tell somebody about what just happened. So it's not that it's expressed in words. It can't even be told in words because it already happened. Even when I'm getting ready to go explain what just happened, it already happened already. So we're going to gain back. We're going to gain back. We're going to gain back our lost estate, our heritage, but it has to be done in a conflict that cannot be told in words. So, he, man, must suffer these trials and some temptations manifold. But let him know that the cherubim and the seraphim that rule the stations of the sun, S-U-N, and the spirit of the mighty Allah, they will lead to victory. Now, the reason I said that is because when people say, oh, the Prophet didn't talk about astrology. Number one, astrology lesson, the Circle 7 is the astrology wheel. Number two, the creation and fall of man says clearly what will be your guide is the solar station. So let's kill that noise. Why are people saying that? Because it keeps them from actually looking at the universal science for real. All right? And it is in line with the intended, you may as well throw it in there with the Intercaterra Divina intent, which was to kill everyone that didn't go along with their version of Jesus Christ the Savior and what they call Christianity. All right. Then you can go to chapter 47 of the Circle 7 Holy Quran. Thank you. And you can see the chapter 47 or 46. 46 of the Circle 7 Quran. And you can see where the Prophet tells you how Christianity, as we know it today, began. And it is not our religion. It's not anybody's really religion, but it's not a religion, really. But then, religion being how you what your allegiance is to, and to realign yourself to your allegiance. Well, I guess you could call that a pseudo-religion, because that is what it is. And it is not a party. Listen to this. It's not a party to the divine principles that we established when we established the Constitution, which is why when you go into some of the congressional records, it clearly says, and also one of those treaties, I don't know which one it is, and that says that this country is not built on Christianity, right? And one of those treaties that says that.
Barbary, the Barbary treaties.
Barbary treaties.
I think 1795, I think.
All right. It clearly says.
I think it's 11 or 12.
Number 12?
I think it's 11 or 12, one of them. I don't remember which one, but it's 11 or 12.
And also in the Expatriation Act, page 535, it says this country is not built on this is not a Christian country. It wasn't built on it. We're talking about the American land. We're talking about here. We're talking about the American land, not the United States of America operating on the land, on the ancestral state. We're not talking about that. We're talking about here. And the establishment of them really was not done in under Christianity. But they keep rolling around calling themselves good Christians and trying to make you Christians through the Intercaterra Divina, which their intent to make you Christians in pseudo-Christian Christianity. I'm going to use that term because Christ-like and crystal clear and pure is back to our conversation about the S-U-N Son. That's the Christ. That's truly the Christ ray. That's good. But they've dirtied it to the point where you only see it when you hear the word Christ and when you hear the word Christianity, you think that it's something that it is not, and you rebuke it without knowing what it truly is. So read chapter 46 so you can find out what it really is, and then you will know that this Christianity was a made-up situation, and then that the Christian Crusaders and then the Christian religion, the institution of the Christian religion and all of that was made up. It has nothing to do with your ancient foremothers and forefathers. And so when the law of the land and all of this adopting and all of these treaties was established, they had nothing to do with Christianity, and it clearly says so in the records. But yet you'll hear these modern hybrid Europeans talk about, and this is our Christian country, and we got to be good Christians and all that. Well, Christians, by definition, in the Intercaterra Divina says that we will kill people who will not convert to our version of what we call Christianity. So now that, and then they want to talk about Islamic, Muslim, not knowing that, everybody's a Muslim, son, not knowing what that Muslim and Muslim is muscles and limbs and tissues, it's a fetus, not knowing that Islam proper is I, self, law, and master self. They want to talk about them being terrorists. What is more terrorist than the Intercaterra Divina? Have you read it? Because it's actually using what you think is Christianity and religion to murder people and then talking smack. Then they're sitting here talking about Moors are terrorists because they're Islamic. No, don't let that go down. Get that straight. It is clear that they're Christians, and then you use the Intercaterra Divina to show that they have had a directive to kill anybody who wouldn't be like them. Got to reverse this. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this, and how does it deal with astrology? Because it's all law. Now, I'm bringing this portion up and bringing in the Circle 7 and showing you that it is astrology. Also, chapter 23, I want to continue to make sure we clear the air so that those who don't accept these truths that are written down and clear for them, whatever, then it's just not meant for you. But to say that the prophet didn't bring astrology, you're absolutely in error and misleading the people and doing just like, in my opinion, the Christian crew, the Intricaterra Divinus Christian intent was. That's what you're doing. That's right. I said it, and that's what I meant, because that's what you are doing when you do that, because that's what they did. You are riding on the tails of that and telling the people that astrological universal law, the universal principles, and the actual length, angle, and width, which is law, has nothing to do with the prophet, and the prophet nothing to do. He didn't bring it. Now, if this doesn't put a pen in it, read the article that he read, that he wrote, called Religious Controversy. He says, although the sun, S-U-N, sits at high noon, they comprehend it not. All right? And then he talks about how if you take it's like taking a mirror, holding it up to the sun, and it deflects some rays. That's not the real deal. So let me give you a little history regarding Christian and the use of word Christian and Christ, because the Christ ray is the sun's ray. And the hybrids, the modern Europeans, that, people want to call white people, we already know that's so old, we don't even do that. They couldn't take the rays of the sun, and they still can't. It'll burn them up because they don't have the melanin and they don't have the stuff necessary, because they're made not in nature. Let's get real with this, because they were made and grafted in a laboratory at the hands of our ancestors. This is why we're suffering as we're doing, because it was wrong. It got out of hand, that's for sure. That's the Frankenstein. The Frankenstein movie shows you how it got out of hand. But so now the Christ ray was so strong that they were called Cretans, Cretins, Cretans, not Christians, which means and indicates a skin disease. So here they are again, playing off of something that is in nature or that is already established and making it into something that it's not. So since they knew they were Cretans with skin disease, they started calling themselves Christians. And then, all that lives wants to live, so now they have Christianity, or the Christian Crusaders. That came first. Going around killing people, as it extended later, killing people and trying to take that which they did not have dominion over. But you and I and the natural aboriginal people did have dominion. Oh, but that's right. We lost it because we decided that we were going to participate in our lower self activity. So here's the thing. How many cells are there? Number 66 in the 101. 2. Name them. The higher self and the lower self. Oh, what did it say in chapter 1? Oh, it said that, we lost our heritage in our estate and our heritage because, it says, excuse me, let me back up. We gave up our birthright just to gratify what? Our lower self. Okay, so there's 2 selves. Let's see. And sometimes people call the lower self devil. Well, that's why there is no such thing as a devil. It's just lower self and lower self activity. And all of us have a lower self and a higher self. And in your astrology chart, your lower self are all the conflicting angles. Like if you have a planet that's squaring another planet, that square is not a good aspect. It's a challenging one, or squaring or conjuncting energies that aren't right. That's how you find out that aren't compatible. When you have conjuncting energies, it means that it's 2 planets or heavenly bodies and their energies that are within 20 degrees, back to the math, of each other, sitting in the same place, obviously, within 20 degrees of each other, and their energy is very, very, very strong. So now you have to look at, well, does those two energies, do they go together well? Like Uranus and Mars don't go together well, Nah, Mars ready to fight. Uranus doesn't, Uranus definitely going to cut them down. So you know what I mean? Like these are the things that is meant when you look into your chart to find your lower self. Your chart indicates it, and that's what you have to work on. So let's go back to this. Man lost or gave up his birthrights to gratify his lower self. Lower self, what is? Okay, there's a higher self and a lower self. So what is the lower self? Okay. What does the lower self breed? Number 73. Well, it breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murderers, theft, and anything that harms. Oh, so that's the lower self. We gave up our heritage, our birthright, just to participate in lower self? Gee, I really need to the higher self. Oh, well, what's the higher self? What does it breed? Well, it's the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life, and it breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. So if you're out there looking for justice, you got to come out of your lower self, which is why you lost your estate in the first place, and your heritage, and get into the higher self, and that's what you got to do, because everybody got two selves. And the astrology chart tells you what that is. Believe me, it does. It tells you what you got to work on to come out of that individually, and then, of course, collectively we do so. And now, lastly, so that I can come out of this, I'm only showing that Circle 7 is astrology, and there's a whole lot more to show, but these are very obvious ones so we can kill the noise about that. And that's chapter 23 when it gives you the holy instructions for your children. Now, of course, it's a brief on things, and when you get to number, 8, it really is talking about the astrology. Now, we're not just guessing that it is. It is. It's telling you instructions for your children naturally, so you want to watch the inclination. If it tells you to watch the bent of your child's inclination, then obviously there must be some signifying, some symbols or something that lets you know what that is. And so coming right out the gate, if you will, there are certain things that, are possessed or that a child possesses based on his the energies of his astrologicals. So with that, you would say when it gets to number 8 in chapter 23, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, read it for yourself. It says, teach him obedience, and he shall bless thee. Now, from 8 to 13 is dealing with the each astrology sign, all right? All right? So teach him obedience, and it deals with 2 at a time. 2 at a time, but in a row. Teach him obedience, and he shall bless thee. That's for Aries. Teach him modesty, and he shall not be ashamed. That's definitely for Tauruses. And next would be what sign? Cancer, right? I'm sorry, Gemini, right? Teach him gratitude, and he shall receive benefit. Then you go to Cancer. Teach him charity, and he shall gain love. Now, everybody knows charity starts at home, and Cancer is the 4th house of home. Teach him temperance, and he shall have health. Now, that's Virgo, right? I did Cancer. Excuse me, that's supposed to be Virgo, but whoever typed this typed it wrong, and I'm going to prove it. I think I've done this before. Teach him temperance, and he shall have health. Everybody knows that belongs to Virgo. But the next sign is not Virgo, it's Leo. So the second one on the same phrase says, teach him prudence, and fortune shall attend him. That's Leo. That's why Leo's ruled by the sun. And it should say, teach him prudence, and fortune shall attend him. And then that would be Leo. And then after that, for the Virgo, say, teach him temperance, and he shall have health, because everyone knows Virgo is the 6th house of health. So that's how you know right there that just needed to be reversed. Teach him justice. Well, what's the next sign after Virgo? Libra. Oh, well. Scales. Libra. Law. Now we know we're on it, right? Teach him justice, and he shall be honored by the world. That's for the Libra. Teach him sincerity. This is for the Scorpion now. Teach him sincerity, and his own heart shall not reproach him. Teach him diligence, right? So what are we talking about after Scorpio? We're talking about the Sagittarius, right? Teach him diligence, and his wealth shall increase. Teach him benevolence, and his mind shall be exalted. All right. So what do we miss? That's Capricorn. That's Aquarius. I apologize. Sagittarius and then Aquarius. Teach him benevolence, and his mind shall be exalted. Because Aquarians' minds are inventive minds. They are always ahead of the game. They're very inventive thinking people, and they have a lot of friends, and they're in the 11th house of friends, or what they call hopes, wishes, and dreams, but it's the social house of generally society and people. So then, so let me go back. On number 12, it says, teach him diligence, and his wealth shall increase. And that would be the, I said Scorpion. After Scorpion is the Sagittarius. And then the Capricorn, teach him benevolence, his mind shall be exalted. So then the last one would be, I'm kind of messing up here. What I got? Pisces. We got Pisces, and before Pisces is Aquarius. Okay. All right. So the last one, teaching benevolence and his mind shall be exalted, was the Capricorn. Forgive me for that. And then teach him science, and his life shall be useful. That's the Aquarian. And teach him religion, and his death shall be happy. That's Pisces, and that's the last one. Because religion, true religion, is the science. Right? And if you're at the beginning, you're at the ending, you know that there is no such thing as death. That's why his life shall be happy, or his death shall be happy, because once you understand what the religion truly is, then you know that there's really no death physically. You know, there may be perishing physically, but there's no death, because that's what religion is really about. So I brought those things up to clear up anybody, and there's more in there as well, that would say that for those who are with the teachings of Prophet Noble Jarley, so that we could get out of the way that the Prophet didn't teach astrology. That's what this is really all about. That's what the Circle 7 represents in itself. And then what I wanted to say, since we mentioned that the sun, S-U-N, is truly the Christ ray, and we're dealing with Christmas, right? Then we're dealing with a massive crossing of the sun, S-U-N, into in the heavens, where we have the sun coming into the winter solstice, where it goes down into what they call a grave, but it's really not a grave. It's just like 3 days of seeming to be resting. And then it begins to shoot out of that after the third day, which is on the 25th. Some people say the 24th. Some people say the solstice starts on the 21st. Some say the 22nd. But since we're dealing with the sun cycle only being no more than 24 hours from one side of the planet to the other, you know, it could be that, because while we're celebrating day, they're celebrating night. So, you know, giving and taking within that, there's still 3 days of stillness. During that stillness is because the sun is basically resting. You could feel that stillness, and I think I mentioned that last week. Then it comes out on the 25th for us, for what we would say, which we call Christmas, and we also call it the day that the Jesus Christ, the Son, was born. And when we say Son, they're saying, in the Christian religions, they're saying S-O-N, Son, but it's not. It's S-U-N. It's S-U-N, being airborne again. So these are all allegorical stories about the the cosmology and the planets. That's really all that it's really and truly about. Now, we're coming into New Year's. To show you just how much they know we don't know jack, they take 7 days and they say it's the New Year. Now, first of all, the New Year is in the spring. That's indicated by the spring equinox. It's clear to anybody with any reasonable mind, but see, we're in a mental slavery, so we don't see things the way they actually are. I realize that one's reality is whatever they think it is. I got that. But as we're coming out of this mental slavery and we're coming into a more consciousness. No, I mean, people say, well, what is consciousness? Conscience. Con is with. Science is science. So as we become into our higher self and our more reasonable mind, we are with science. We are conscious. We have a conscience. And from that you have conscious. I mean, what is the definition of conscious? With what? Because C-O-N is with. I know conscience is with science. So as we do so, we have to look around and see, and this is why it says you won't know the seasons except for by the trees, and we're experiencing that now too. We have to look around and see that in the spring, it's not so much what happens on the ground, because there's certain parts that don't see the sun for 6 months. But this cycle doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, or it's not happening, and it's not to be applied. Initiate, immerse, flex out is the 3. That's the what do they call it? 3 is a charm, and it keeps working itself everywhere. So what we have is we when we look at again, it's not so much whether or not the weather is warm or cold or what have you. It is all based on the traversing and the cycling or cycles of the movements of the planets. Yes, there's lots of planets, but we are confined into this solar system, this particular solar system. So we have to have an understanding of how that works. So when the sun comes to a certain place on the equator, meeting up with the Venus, the moon, all of these right cycle locations or geographical locations, which is the astronomy. Astronomy means geography, location of the planets. Astrology means the effect. So when that happens, the sun impregnates the earth with its Christ ray. And that will be symbolized as a ram ramming its head into the earth, because the ram symbolizes Aries, which is the time period of spring or the spring equinox when all of this happens. At that spring equinox, the sun rams and impregnates the earth, if you will, S-U-N, and all of the trees and the greenery grows out of the trees, and the grass gets greener, and, the flowers bloom like that. So those indications of that is a ram head ramming the ground. The energy of that time period is in Aries, which is represented by the ram. So now you see how they're all connected. We have to know this or know these signs so that we can recognize them and know what's going on at that time. So this is what's going on at that time. It's all about the sun and its traversing. Now, one of the things that the astrology, a lot of people ask about astrology, and they say, well, if we already know what's going to happen, then, why bother? Why do we read or whatever like that or get into it? Well, really? The astrology wheel is a fickle wheel of fate. And this is why. Because if you have energies, remember this is all about energies, and if you know that this energy, once it butts up or comes close to or whatever, I'll call it degree of closeness or whatever degrees it makes. It could make an angle that is a square. It can make a sextile. It can make a semi-sextile. It can make a conjunction. It can make a opposition. It can make a sextile is, I said that already, but a sextile is a harmonious aspect. Why? Because the energies of whatever the planet is always going to blend nicely because they're not too close, they're not too far. They blend nicely, and you get the best out of that energy. That's why it's good to know what that is in your chart so you can know how they blend. So when all of this occurs, you know if you touch a pot and it's hot, you're going to get burned. So you know that when these energies are in this particular position, this is what happens. You know that when the moon is full or new, it's going to cause the waters on the earth to rise higher. You know this because that's what happens. So this is why it's called the fickle wheel of fate. Now, Jayana had given a story, and it called, I don't know if she sent it to me, about the fate. She looked up the word fate, and it was in some books that she's reading, the definition of fate. Okay. She also sent me something interesting because Prophet Noble Drew Ali, January 8th, is his birthday is coming up, and she sent me something interesting. But let me get this fates first. Now, what did she tell me to go to? Look at number 2, fate's definition. Okay. Give me a second. Number 2. It is the album by, okay, let me see. Definition of fate by, here we go. Okay. Define fate, a power that is believed to control what happens in the future. Right? Okay. Now, Fates is the first, oh no, that's an album. We don't want that. Turn to War, and which marks 4. I think that's the one I'm supposed to read, which makes sense to me. I thought it was something else that she had given, but that's good. But it was something else I think she had written, it was something that was written, and it says, and then the Fates, which was supposed to be a group of women, or indicated as a group of women. And I was saying, yeah, that would be the astrology. Those are the fates, because the astrology wheel is the fickle wheel of fate, which is why the sooner we get to understand what it is, the better we'll get off of this fickle wheel of fate. Not that we are off of it, away from it. It says it's just that we will have understanding of it and therefore of ourselves, and therefore gain back our lost estate and our birthrights of which we have dominion over, because we lost it by gratifying our lower self. And if everybody listening doesn't know that they have a lower self and what that is, they'll never be able to get to their higher self at all, because you're not accepting and acknowledging that you even have a lower self. You think that, the way you walk and the way you smell and all that stuff, and you be smelling stinky and doing stinky stuff, and I'm using that as a terminology, it's all okay because you just being you. Well, you're missing a part. You're missing the fact that you have to be able to, in moderation or moderately, blend the two, correct the two, be the best. That's why in the instructions that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali agrees, he says, look for the best in others and give the best in yourself. So if each one of us were to be the best in ourselves, then, we would have a better relationship socially with each other, and would just open up so many things. So first we got to know ourselves. So we have a lower self, we have a higher self, and we lost our heritage and our birthrights by indulging in the lower self. Now, again, the cross, and I had mentioned this earlier, I meant to finalize that cross that you see them give you when you go to these churches has an extended line on the lower self. As you draw that line, it's drawn lower and lower because it is symbolic of the fact that we have entered into and delved into our lower self-activity, and many have called that, the devil, but really this is why it is clear that there is no devil. It is only lower self and lower self-activity. Now, we're talking about ourselves. Let's look and see that we see other people doing lower self stuff. That's what the fall of humanity is about. Most people have fallen into this lower self. And so now you look at what seems to be suppressing us, which we established this hybrid. They don't do nothing but rock completely against us on lower self-activity. I mean, constantly, all right? No respect for humanity, no respect for others, wanting to steal, hatred, slandering us every day, being lewd, theft, murderers, and everything that harms. That's what they're doing, this lower self. So this is about the uplifting and falling humanity. This is all cosmologically in tune, but we have to have knowledge of that. So we cannot be Christians in the respect of what the Christian religion is, because it is about the S-U-N sun moving, and yet you'll be in a Christian talking about you shouldn't believe in astrology. It's hypocrisy. It's all hidden stuff, and it all is connected. So everything that has been said is connected. I can go right back and connect that they are covering this up, suppressing it, and depressing us from it. If I were to say to you, and that's why all the temples in which you send your children to learn are now called churches by the Catholic churches. That's not what they originally were. They were originally institutions of learning to enhance the higher inclinations of your children. So it's all tied in. And so on to that, I don't know if you have any questions about anything that has been said so far.
Are you talking?
Yes, I didn't know whether you wanted to ask any questions. Oh, I got it.
No.
I got it right here. Okay, pagan.
Yeah.
I'll explain that, and then maybe you can have a comment on that as well. Pagan. Look at, that is a great thing to explain, because, see, we can't really benefit from knowing astrology or knowing anything or knowing how it actually is real to our lives every day, starting with, like I said, if the moon doesn't come out and fertilize the seeds that we plant, if the sun doesn't come out to do the same, we have nothing here on this land. So, in terms of growth. So here we are, pagans. What do they do with pagans? Made you think, we got some of our own people. Oh, yeah, they're just pagans. Don't even know what a pagan is. Don't even know that they labeled those who treat of the earth, that means grow food in the earth, who honor the earth, the trees, the plants, who respect it, that's what a pagan really was, that the modern Europeans encountered. And so they began calling them pagans, and now today you think that a pagan is a bad word. And you will use that against your own people without knowing that you're talking about the aboriginal people when you say that. And so in the Intercaterra Divina, it clearly says we will kill pagans. They call you pagans, and they will kill you if you don't want to go along with their version of Jesus Christ, their Savior, that they just found out about yesterday. Then they're going to come and tell you to go along with their version. And if you don't, not so much as they suggested, requested, or demanded. Instead, if you did it, they murdered you. And here we are today, they're talking about people murdering people because of religion. I mean, they're only bringing themselves right back for the people to go right back to seeing them for who they are. And because we have allowed ourselves to be in a false jurisdiction, we've claimed that same thing without even knowing it. So pagans are those who treated the earth, and yet, they said they would kill pagans. And you and I and most of us who have been educated or not educated, who have been taught and indoctrinated, believe that a pagan is a bad thing. So they have taught us to hate our own selves.
Wow, that is that's real interesting.
Yeah, it is. And so there's no way that we can rise above it. Like, let's give an example. There's no way we can rise above all of this without really knowing the truth. That's why the prophet said, you need to know the truth and the divine truth. Because, see, the truth, what is the truth? The truth is the source of all things made manifest. So your truth can be different from my truth because, you might be manifesting some things because we manifest our own reality. So he said you need to know the truth and the divine truth. Now, because he used the word divine truth and, that this is a divine and national movement, a lot of the leaders before us have taken this entire national movement, this national life activity, all right, of the world, and turned it into a religious choice because that's all we know. And I heard you and I were conferencing with someone earlier, and I heard you explain it, or maybe I think it was a conference call we were on, and we were saying, listen, the children didn't learn from the parents, so now they really don't know. So, they really don't know, They really don't know how this thing is really supposed to be, passed down. We're not passing down. So we are teaching these uncultured things that have nothing to do with our religion. Not that our religion is different from yours, because religion is religion. It's the allegiance. What do you realign yourself with? We know, if we know better, we need to realign ourselves with what we say. We're aligning ourselves with God, which is a terminology from the 5th century. But we're really talking about with all law, with the universal principles and law. So if we're doing that, we need to know what that is and how that works. So we can't move on into the next phase, if I would say that, until it's just like going to kindergarten. Well, the kindergarten is the womb, technically. So I always got to create that. I always got to qualify that. But as we know, we go to first grade, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Well, and by the third grade, you're supposed to know your ABCs and stuff like that, right? Well, you can't move on to reading unless you know your ABCs, right? So it's the same thing here with this whole dynamic of what Aboriginal, Indigenous, and what Moor is. It's the same thing. So we have a lot of people out there who do not get the fundamentals of it and running out there doing stuff. We see it all the time. And I don't mean to shift a little, but, we got to apply it because everything is connected to every other thing. You have people that will go out and, try to apply divine things or things that deal with us as a national family into what the Europeans had taught them. And then when if it ever becomes clear to them, it's like, well, I didn't really know, because you didn't really study it. Because whoever did this wasn't quite ready yet. Because you are indoctrinated with the things that they gave to keep you in their circle of jurisdiction while they walk on top of you and step all over you to get to your stuff and steal it. I don't know. Did that make sense? Did that make sense what I just said? Because
yes,
I'm trying to visualize it. Right. So you take a good thing and you go and you dump it in the cesspool and dirty it all up. And too many people are doing that, today. And I know it'll be over with soon because it's the young and yet unborn that I'm not all tied up, and the eagles aren't as great, as some that we do see. Because what we have that we should really touch on, because that's the era, or I think the realm of people now that are becoming more conscious, is those educated ones. See, I don't want to say ones like they're separate, but the educated brethren and sisters who went to the European process of education, the public school education, and then went higher than that, and they're all educated. They're the ones that are finding they're not as educated as they thought they were. You know, and it's an easy adjustment, because it's like either you're going to be here or you're going to be there. You cannot be both. You cannot serve two masters. It's not going to happen. And since you're so educated, you ought to know that, right? So what are you going to do? You know, and it's not just them, it's all of us. If we all were to come together on one accord and be in the same direction, all of this craziness would be over with overnight. Now, it's becoming over with on what I call a slow walk, but it's not that slow. It's still happening, because as the prophet said, no matter what it looks like, it's all going to be in our hands. It's happening, but it's not. No, I won't say that it's not. It's in such a way that, like, it's almost like there's these dogs chasing you. I'm going to try to do a visual on this, and they're gaining on you, but they're not going to get you. But some people they're going to get, because somebody's going to stumble. You know what I mean? And they're going to be eaten up, and so this energy that possesses these people to continue to operate in their lower self-activity, hatred, and theft, and all that, they are still chasing you. And if anybody falls, you're done. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You get the visual? Yes. So we're moving forward, but some people are stumbling. Now, the stumbling of some of the people has been greater, but it's getting less and less. So that means the wolves, and I won't say wolves, because wolves are a beautiful animal in that respect. The dogs, which is a hybrid of the wolves, they hungry because they can't eat you anymore. Right. That's really what it is. And in the same token, that's why the prophet also said, you know, you're going to be running into the temples with your coattails straight out, like, you know, gone with the wind. But the temples did not mean the institutions and the buildings of those who have MST of A's sitting in the living room or the kitchen or wherever it is. Not that you can't make a temple out of your house, because you most certainly can. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying they're sitting there waiting for them to enter into those temples. No, the temple is the pure body. That's the temple. The people, right, and they're returning to that. And if you're returning to that, you have to know the science of the universe, which is exactly what the prophet was leading you to know. That's why it said it's divine and national. You need to know the truth and the divine truth. So the truth is what that over there, but the divine truth is, since we're divine beings, we got to go with the divine, but we still see the truth that was manifested over here. Yeah, that's the truth, but that ain't the real. You know what I mean? That ain't divine. You know what I mean? So that's really what it's like. That's really what it's like. You could take the astrology wheel and apply it. If we would apply the astrology wheel in our activities as much as we apply the bull crap that these people have established, I mean, you know, really, even when you're proposing something to, and I don't want to say business plan, because you already know, you made it clear to us that a business plan is really what, I think that is what a charter is, or what was called charters are now called business plans. See, so that's why we have to know the truth and the divine truth. A true plan of action starts with the astrology wheel. You would say, like, if you were writing up something or establishing something or creating something new or some plan or whatever, you would start with, who are you? It's just like you said, well, who am I dealing with? What company name is this? Aries, I am. So I am RB Bey Publications, or I am whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about as you apply it, as it relates to a quote-unquote business plan, but it doesn't relate to it. If you use the astrology, that is how they applied these things. It always starts with who the parties are, right? That's I am, isn't it? Then it's always Taurus. I have. What do you have? Oh, you selling beans? Okay, I have beans. Then it's the communication. 3, I think that, blah, 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 whatever. Then you can go into, well, I feel that as a result of this, such and such would happen, something good, I would suppose. And then you get into the creativity on how this will be produced. That's in Leo. That's I create. And then you get into the analyzing of how you're going to serve it. The analytical portion of it. And then, you get, which is the Virgo, right? And then you get into the uniting of what you have and who it's for. Like you might be making something that's for people who have one leg or something. I mean, I'm going crazy, but I'm just trying to make an extreme example. You might be establishing something for special needs of someone. So how are you uniting what you have with? Oh, that means how are you bringing what you have to bring into the society, crossing out the first social line or sign, which is Libra, which is uniting you with the rest of the daggone world, which is why the first 6 houses are personal houses and how your mama raised you when you were young, and then the 7th house is when you go out into society and partner with others in association with others. What did your mama make you? How did you come out and cross into this line? And then, you partner and or marry, well, not marry, matrimony with someone, whether it be, business otherwise, So then, it's the legacy of it, what the reserves will be after Libra, after you unite, who will get what, you know what I mean, like that. And then you go into the higher, which was Sagittarius, how it will affect the community and make it better, and raise it to a higher level of whatever it is, and the usefulness of it in Capricorn for the rest of the society, possibly, if that's what it's for, and then you go into the usefulness of it even more worldwide. Could it be public? Could it be private? Whatever it is, because the Aquarius covers all of that. The public sector, the private sector, the whole thing, everybody, the relationships of employers with employees, as they would call it, but we don't have employers or employees, but with the provider, and the worker that establish whatever this product is. And then, you go back into perfecting this product, which is where at Pisces at the end, you go back and recuperate in perfection. That's how the cycles are supposed to work. I thought I got another text, but I didn't. So this is how they've applied the sciences that we don't apply to what they're doing and to controlling you. So they're using your own science to control you that you have no knowledge of. I thought I just got a message, but I didn't. And so I just wanted to share that as well, to the extent of how they're using these things against us at all times because of our lack of knowledge. 3, 4,
all right.
11. Let me look at another thing. So before we move on again, there's a chapter 3. This is Yana. What she said in the Circle 7 Holy Quran, what I read about lower self and higher self, which is also in the 101 number 66, about 66 through basically 70, about higher self and lower self, is also in chapter 3 of the Circle 7 Holy Quran, the unity of life, chapter 3, 11, the lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. The higher self is the mother of the virtues and the harmony of life, because the lower self Okay, let's see that. Remember, and the reason why we're doing this is because we lost our heritage and our estate because we delved into the lower self, which is representative of that symbol cross with the cross extended down low, showing that the people have gone into their lower self, and we honor that cross, and we, pay homage to and continue to stay in our lower selves without knowledge of it. It says there are two selves, the higher and the lower self, and that's number 5 of chapter 3. Then the higher self is human spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires, is a reflection of the higher self. Aha. So the devil is just a reflection. There is no devil. It's a reflection of you. That's really all it is. It's distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. That's why they have like sex cell and all this stuff, and now it's on TV, and it's just really, really a degradation of those activities of the flesh. You know what I mean? And itself, because we're really steeped in it. The lower self is an illusion, and it will pass away. But the higher self is Allah and man, and will never pass away. The higher self is the embodiment of truth. The lower self is truth reversed. And so it is falsehood manifest. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. So look, if you're not getting justice, mercy, right, love, and right, that's a good indication that the operation is in the lower self, right? Excuse me. And so the lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. The higher self is mother of virtues and the harmonies of life. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and poor in peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. It gives many apples that are lovely to the eye and pleasant to the smell, but their cores are full of bitterness and gall. If you would ask me what to study, here's your part. This is in the unity, honey. If you would ask me what to study, I would say yourselves. And when you have studied them, and then would ask me what to study next, I would reply yourself. He who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world. He knows of the things that pass away, and he knows his higher self. And he who knows his higher self knows that Allah knows well the things that cannot pass away. All right. Thrice blessed is the man who has made purity and love his very own. He has been ransomed from the perils of the lower self and is himself his higher self. Right? So men seek salvation from an evil that they deem a living monster of the netherworld, and they have gods that are but demons in disguise, all powerful yet full of jealousy and hate and lust. So, wow. So here it is. So now, if we can recognize that, the astrology will help you recognize that, and it will make you feel not so alone, and it'll make you realize, wow, that's why I do this, and that's why I do that. This is what I have to work on. You know, it's a spiritual and personal, yet not personal, because truthfully, it is personal, but truthfully, it is what it is. You know, these energies are going to act a certain way. The blending of it based on, what was where when you were conceived, what was being done, and affecting the energy while you were in your mama's womb, coupled with what she did or exposed you to while you were in her stomach, even though, she thinks that you didn't hear and you didn't smell and you didn't see, you did, so and all of that, and then coupled with what's on the horizon when you rose, when you actually were born, which is how you will present yourself, which, the true trinity is mind, body, and soul, or sun, moon, and rising. The sun is what you call your sun sign, and the spirit and the soul is the moon sign. That's the real you expressing itself through the characteristics of the sun sign. And then the rising is what was on the horizon. Some people call that the ascendant. That is you presenting your soul self. So all, they're not, the rising, how you present yourself and how you express yourself, the characteristics, neither one of them are who your real self is, which is the soul self, which is indicated by the moon, which will always be the same thing that where the moon was when the moment, second that you were conceived, and it will be the moon that you're also born in. No liberty, no doubt, because nothing falls far from its origin. And it's the moon you will die in or pass born in, because you always come back. You always come back. Trees are root, So with that, we are looking at celebrating a new year, and we look like a bunch of hypocrites, because the truth of the matter is that that would be a fiscal new year. It has nothing to do with nature. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with anything except and because. It has all to do with the end of the year, commercial, corporate. Let's count up the finances, turn in your income tax forms, and while all that is happening, we'll be over in the Bahamas. This is what these corporate heads do, sipping on, Mai Tais or whatever they drink, and we'll come back and then we'll collect all of our finances from all the sales we did of all the people who thought that, that the sun moving into the winter solstice had something to do with a Santa Claus bringing gifts, and they bought all of this stuff when they didn't have to. And they just financed our vacations. And then when we come back, we're going to rape them for their income tax. Or for them to put in their reports on income. All of it has to do with commerce. It has nothing to do with the new year. It is a celebration for them at their fiscal, or for corporations, because we hate to say them without being specific, but corporations at the end of the year, for corporations to end their financial reports, quite frankly. And then it's mixed, like the prophet told you, the truth and falsehood is strangely mixed. It's mixed in with the fact that when the sun did, in fact, S-U-N sun, did in fact seem to rest for 3 days and then began moving, there was, of course, a celebration, because it's a celestial vibration, which is where the word celebration comes from, because all holy days, or what they call holidays, is based somehow in cosmology, be it a small or seismic, whatever the size of the action is. Man, I just lost my train of thought of what I was saying. I was trying to bring back to the fact that that in this celebration that they're doing, or in this acknowledgement that they're doing, that has to do with the new year. And everybody's going to go out and talk about, I'm doing New Year resolutions, and it's not even a new year. It's a fiscal commercial new year. So we look like total hypocrites. I mean, it's interesting, because I remember even when my family members, even my son, and he was younger then, and then some of his friends were talking about the new year, and I said, well, to him I said, well, as long as you understand that you say it's the fiscal new year, I already planted that seed, because that's what it is. Not that he was going out partying and he was too young, but it was just having the conversation. You must tell your children the truth now instead of having to undo a lie later. Because what happened was, when the sun did move, or did kind of come out of its rest and appear to be airborne again, they said this is the day that Christ was born. Well, there was a Moor named Saint Maurice. Now, a lot of people may not know that he was Saint Maurice, but his appellation was Saint Maurice, and you'll find a statue of him on the site on the Holy Days, Holidays page. You will see a story about the truth about Christmas, and there's a photo of him, the statue of him. And there's also another one where it looks like he has a space bubble around him because that was just indicating the light. He decided to give gifts to people because the sun didn't fall out of the sky, or the sun was on its course, and the acknowledgement of the sun on its course bringing life. He decided to give gifts to people. That's how they got the idea of, giving gifts, and created Saturn, right, which is the discipline, and said that Santa Claus is watching you and knows what you do, knows when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake type thing. And that's out of Saturn, which is the discipline planet. That's your planet that indicates your disciplines and where you need discipline. So they used all of the science of the universe and what we call astrology and astronomy to establish stuff that is inferior and to keep you from knowing the real truth. And it's time for that to just end, because these are the sources of much of this information. This is the divine truth that you must know. You must know the truth and the divine truth. Islam.
All right.
Mhm. So, I don't think anybody has any questions or anything. But if they did, we don't usually take questions on this day, and I'm not sure what the time is. Oh, wait a minute. Uh-oh. Somebody texted me a question. I said that, and as soon as I said it, and look, his brother asked Sam, you should open the line up for him, because we don't usually open it up. Okay. Oh, this is a good question. He says, what effect does the 3 months out of the 12 months have on the child? We know the child is formed in the 9. All right, this is a very good question. All right, there are 12 solar months, but your body is made in 9 of them, which is actually the 10 lunar months. But as far as the sun is concerned, the solar, the child is done in 9 months. This is the science of the number 9, and 9 solar months. And so whatever was going on during those 9 months that the child was in the womb, being exposed to the energies that was happening while it was being built. Solomon's temple was being built by the grand architect, which is she. That child got exposed to those energies, no doubt, because that child was being formed while those energies were abound. But there's 3 months that the child did not touch, did not get a part of, right? So the child automatically comes out in search of that energy that she was missing. That's why it says Solomon's temple. What is it? Solomon's temple was built in the silence and the darkness with no hands and no tools. But it is not complete. So you got people trying to go and complete Solomon's temple. No, it's not complete, because out of the 12 months, only 9 was it built under the influences. Now we roll right into some family planning stuff as well, the true family planning. Now, if they didn't get those 3 months, they crave them. They crave that energy with a passion. Some of it can be fatal. Matter of fact, the 3 months in front of you, if you were born in October, so you talk about November, December, January, which would be, for the most part, we're talking born as a Libra, and then not getting any of Scorpio, Capricorn, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn, you're seeking that energy. Now, it can be fatal. So if the family, the mother, the family, knows that, where her child, because every mother has a more fertile month, we know that. But if the children have a sibling that is a Scorpio, Cat, Sag, or Cat, they will not be seeking it as strongly, nor will it be fatal, because most attractions, fatal attractions, I guarantee you, are based on this science right here. I mean, I just guarantee that will make fatal attractions. So if there's a sister or a brother or family member who is in fact one of those signs that child is missing, well, that satisfies that need. So what does that really mean? The sign in front of you that you're missing is the energy you need. But don't forget that there's 3 signs behind you that need you. So in the family structure, you've got children that need each other, and children that need, and other children that that are the ones that others need. Now, this is so severe that if you have a family where there is a child who has no one in front of them that needs them, and no one behind, or no one in front of them that they need, and no one behind them that needs them, that is the child that leaves the house and no one, that moves off far away and hardly ever comes back. I'm telling you, because this is really about energy. So now, what, besides the family planning, which is really, the first answer to this situation, there is something called salt, cell salt. Now, what is, people say cell salt, biochemical, cellular, tissue salt. Tissue salts, yes, it's the constituencies of the human body, made in nature, right? There's only 12 that exist in the world, just 12, one for each astrology sign. And the old terminology that you would hear so-called Jews, because I've heard them say it to me, I know, and maybe you have too, they'll say, oh, you're the salt of the earth. The salt of the earth. Because that's what was being sought after, is the salts to complete you. That's what it was that would complete the Solomon's temple, not the building of another annex to the physical building, which is what people thought. But so now, really, we would mine the earth, workers, for salt. Everybody remembers mining the earth for salt. Salt's still in the earth right now. Mining the earth for salt. So that also indicates to what you eat out of the earth, what grows in certain areas. Every sign has a certain food that is more appealable to them or in need for them, right? Every sign has that. So, like Taurus is apples or affinity, all right, and like that. So now, different things. We have them in the books. The Oracle book has what those smell signs, flowers, and even the time of day and stuff like that that appeal to or where you're at your best at. So we will mine for the salts of the earth, or have people working to mine the salts out. They changed that to salaries. I know it sounds like a play on words, but it's true. So they took everything that was in nature and natural and turned it into something else. Now, there is one more. Thank you. I can't call it. Okay, now, one more thing that we have, and I think I'm going to bring somebody on special, so I hope they're ready. Question. What about Benjamin Banneker Bey? Chief Justice Benjamin Banneker Bey. They take the Banneker off, but we know what's up. They take the Bey off and use Banneker. So, because they don't want the Bey to be on there, they want you to search for that. What about not to search for the title, because that's just like in a house. You do a title search, right? They say, all right, you got to pay for this title search. There is no title. The only title is in the L and the Bey. All they're really doing is searching to see if an L or Bey hasn't made that claim. But anyway, the question is, what about being a master astrologer and born free? Do you think his family background knowledge and the liberal art of astronomy had anything to do with him being born free? Well, I certainly do, because these are things that are passed down religiously into the culture of the people of and of our family that have been cut off from us at this point. So now at this point, I need, because I know we're getting ready to, we've got about 20 more minutes, I guess, bring on Brother Mizraim. I hope he pressed 1, and Sister Aline, if you could bring him on to express that, and also to just do a brief on how all of the religions are but one. I mean, Brahma, all of them, they're all the same. If you ever did the story of Buddha, it's the same story they tell of so-called the Christ story that it's all the same. So, Ms. Raheem, are you there to embellish a little bit about this Benjamin Banneker? I'm sorry, Ben Bey. Are you opened up?
Yes, I'm here. It's John. Peace and love.
All right.
I'm here. Yeah, I heard you going in. I actually was enjoying everything that you are all talking about. And when you mentioned about astrology, and family, I just, that question arose to my mind, just reflecting on our ancestors and different things that affect and how important the subject of astrology really is in cosmology, astronomy, all of these things, right? Because when you look at, the letter from Ben Bey, this man put out almanacs, things of this nature, that were useful for everybody, and had a direct influence on the Europeans as far as different things. But when you look at his family background, he came from that. One of his aunts was said to be of the Sothic tribe, which we know are Moors. But if you know anything about that, they're notorious for astronomy. So I kind of was correlating that, your knowledge of these different things, especially when you're talking about a liberal art, which means freedom. It just arose to me, like, did his family having that knowledge of astrology, have anything to do with their lineage being born free? Because he was never considered a slave. You know what I mean? So it was notorious with astronomy. So that's really what I had to say, or my thought about what you were going in on. That,
and let me just say that the letter you're talking about is the one to Thomas Jefferson, which can be found on the site on the page called The Forgotten Scrolls. And when you read that, which is why they don't have it in the schools, you clearly see. And he was never a slave. He's always been a free man, and you can tell also by the things that he said. And it also proves that he handed an almanac and gave it to Thomas Jefferson and their plenipotentiary boys as an assistance to them. Because remember, in the letter from George Washington to the Sultan, they were saying that they were hoping to grow food and be useful. So he was really helping them with the almanac, and the almanac is based on astrology. I mean, to this day, an almanac is based on that. And it's funny you should say that, because our family, I kind of recall it, but my sister really reminded me that my mother, peace and grace be upon her, well, I wish the grace could be informed, but peace be on her, she used to always stop and show us the stars and tell us and identify what they were. But see, it becomes such a part of you. That's what astrology, people say, oh, you know so much about astrology and all this and all that. Well, yeah, I read up on it, but it's also in the DNA, and it becomes a part of you. And when it becomes a part of you, like when you know the energies of the days of the week, when you know the colors, when you first start this, and I remember Sister Queen Valara RahsMariah Bey, when I first started classes, Moorish information classes, period, she was the one who, was giving classes on astrology, and she told about the colors, of each day, and we would, wear that color, whether it's hidden under underwear or whatever. And sometimes guys would put some sort of like tie or ring around their wrist or something, and so then after a while, it becomes a part of you. And that's what the whole thing of teaching is about. It becomes a part of you, so you become what you know. And that's how school is supposed to work. And it starts with the elements, teaching the elements, which is about, the elements, fire, water, earth, and air. So this is why we got to go back to that. But moving along with that, yes, it is in the family. If this child is exposed to it, they will be what they know. But we also wanted you to make a mention on how all of the religions are really tied together, including the Egyptians that people think are not, we're not all the same people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely all the religions are tied together. Hold on. Pardon me. I mean, the underlying theme of them all are really based off of the 7 principles in astrology, cosmology, things of that nature, So you see it in the Bible about the 7 and the 7 stars in Yahshua's right hand. You see it sublime thought mentioned in all of these different books. What you have in the Holy Quran and Mecca, throughout it, it continuously reminds you about the clear signs of Allah. These are the zodiacs, among other things, but they're definitely all based off of the ancient philosophies, if you will. Give me a second. I'm trying to pull a reference to conclusively affirm this. Excuse me. Oh, okay, here we go. All right. So this is from the History of the Moorish Empire in Europe, Volume 1, page 102. It says the sacred books of the dominant religions of the world, Buddhist, Jewish, Christian, and Mohammedan, all of which are Asiatic origin. So we already know that, Moors, Asiatics, we're the same people. All of these things come from an Asiatic origin. It's documented fact in history, including references on the history of the Moorish Empire in Europe, which is really a part of Asia. And basically, you put it out to light earlier, it just was codified in textbooks. Because, see, I think that a lot of people get it misconstrued with following preachers or a dead priesthood opposed to reading the text. So, without reading the text, they formulate an opinion when if they really knew themselves in that fundamental foundation that Noble Drew Ali definitely came back and fortified as far as even saying something to the effect, we honor all true and divine prophets, Buddha, Confucius, Muhammad, and all of these things, having as above, so below presentation or sublime thought to actually grow with, no different than how they say the Son of God. I think that people took that to the lowest level and forgot about the highest level in the aspect of, the sun in the sky, the moon in the sky, and again, I mentioned this before, but they're doing the same thing with the moon god ISIS,
Yeah.
Now it's getting a reputation of terrorists. So when they use these different words and attach negative associations with it, this is where the culture starts getting lost at, because people don't want to be a part of something that's, negatively mentioned. And if they could, get you to feel that type of way about yourself and your culture, then there goes the disassociation in the mind. And that's the strategy that they've been using for a while, even in jacking our appellation of American, same thing. So with all due respect to the time, that is what came to my mind when you were mentioning astrology. You know,
so what you said about Prophet Noble Drew Ali saying we honor all divine prophets, and he mentions Buddha as well as Muhammad, Confucius. When you study them, he's opening the door to tell you, listen, hey, that's up too, that's us. And when you do, many of them, really, even the pseudo Christian religion, they can't even hide the fact that they're dealing with astrology, because the Bibliothelia text, which they call the Bible, meaning little book, it is elementary astrology book if you know the codes, the coding that was put, how it was codified. So he's telling you that when you look at them, they're all dealing with astrology. That's why it's so disheartening to hear the modern day MST of A leaders, or whatever they are, say the prophet didn't have anything to do with astrology. That's why I started it out with pointing out some of those things. You know.
Can I add one thing? I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Just so you know, we got 6 minutes left before we're off.
All right, all right.
Saying this, and then I'm done. I just wanted to add on. If you look in chapter 1, it's a specific section, and I say chapter 1 of the Circle 7, where Holy Quran and the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, where Noble Drew Ali specifically, and I mean this is chapter 1, he's saying, "Hear now, you spirits of the fire, of the water, of the air, and of the earth." If that's not astrology, in chapter 1, though, this is the first chapter, then I don't know what else is. You was talking about the elements, the 4 elements, etc. That has, if that's not,
what
I don't think anything else can make it more plainer that he was talking astrology, and that it has effect that, you know, is unseen and seen. So with that, I give the floor, family. Great class. Very thought-provoking.
Thank you for your information sharing. And it says as above, so below, right? So when you want to apply that, because this is how you know when something is not, when it stops being universal and you can't connect the dots, then it's a lie somewhere. If you just look at yourself, but it says study yourselves. If you think you study well, and ask you what to study again, you know, I would say yourselves. And he says selves, it's plural. That means your higher self and your lower self. But when you look at that, you're standing wherever you are right now, and you can just start at this plane on this physical, and you can call your higher self your mind, because that's what actually plants the seeds that grow. Your thoughts, whatever you think, so shall it manifest. So call that your higher self, and then draw that line of your lower self, which the physical portion of, like I said, the reproductive organs and down. And you look at what your higher self tells you to do in your mind. And that's how you can begin determining whether you're truly operating in your higher self from the physical, let's say, because we're talking about standing there where you are right now. If what your higher self, to that limitation of your physical, your brain, your mind, tells you whatever it says for you to do, remember that it's a reflection of your lower self, or your lower self is a reflection of your higher self, excuse me. So therefore, if what it is that your mind is telling you to do is really based in the lower self activity, then you know you need to raise that. You need to raise that consciousness. So starting with you being here, call your higher self your mind, the brain, the heaven, the haven of the mind. That's what it means. And what those thoughts, which are seeds, tell you to do. And then you determine whether what you're doing is operating actually from a higher consciousness or a lower so that means, are you participating in the activities of lower self activities and limiting yourself? Because you're not limited. Because if your God, whatever you want to call it, comes through you and all that you do, then if your God is not limited, then neither are you. And you say that it's not. So then it is, the God is Allah and man, or God and man. I'm using the term God because we know it's a title, but the all in man, that is truly your God, or your what you're serving, all right, and is why you are what you think, because your seed of thought is what will manifest, and that's how you manifest your reality. So if there's no limits in your quote-unquote God, then there should be no limits in you. And look at yourself, where you stand, and start right there. And that's why the astrology and that drawing of the north and the south starting at the lower half where the reproductive organs are down, and you're talking higher self, lower self. What is your higher self telling your lower self to do?